Court Watch with Alex Swoyer, and I'm excited to bring you the latest episode of my podcast where I am joined by Michael McConnell, a lead constitutional and appellate lawyer representing challengers to President Trump's tariff agenda. He'll discuss the major case coming before the Supreme Court on November 5th, where the justices will weigh whether President Trump's broad-scoped tariff implementation is lawful. Thank you, Mr. McConnell, for joining me. I understand that you work with Liberty Justice Center and also, tell me if I'm wrong, but a group of wine distributors that have challenged President Trump's tariffs that were implemented during his whole Liberation Day announcement. Is that correct? And could you kind of walk me through a little bit of the procedures? Because I understand there's kind of two cases that had been challenged in terms of the tariffs, in both lower courts. I think it's the federal circuit as well as the DC circuit ruled against the president. So I was curious, with that kind of posture, why you think the Supreme Court decided to take this up.
So first of all, that's almost correct. We have 5 small business clients, one of which is a wine distributor, but there are other industries as well. And they have been represented by the Liberty Justice Center, which is a nonprofit pro bono law firm. I am not actually affiliated with that center. I teach constitutional law at Stanford Law School and am of counsel at the law firm Wilson Sonsini, Goodrich, and Rosati, which is helping to represent these clients. And yes, it's a little bit complicated. I don't know if it matters for most of your listeners, but there are several different cases involving challenges to the tariffs, and there's some difference of opinion among the courts as to which ones of them have jurisdiction. But the Supreme Court granted review in cases from each of them, so no matter what the answer is to the question of which court should have been the one to decide, the Supreme Court will be able to decide the entire case.
Okay. That's kind of what I was wondering. I know I've covered the court for a while, and I've always, tried to follow circuit splits. I guess that's something that everybody always brings up to me about the birthright citizenship case. I know you might not be involved in that one, but there doesn't ever seem to be a circuit split, so everyone's kind of like, maybe that one won't get granted. Who knows?
Well, there's no circuit split here. If we're right, and I actually think we are on jurisdiction, all challenges to the tariffs have to be brought in the Court of International Trade with an appeal through the federal circuit, so there could never be a circuit split.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So I understand also that you might want to explain this for my readers who are not lawyers, but the Trump administration is arguing that the president has some sort of emergency power under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act with regard to tariffs. And I think in his petition or in his filings, I think they cite 2 emergencies. One is fentanyl, and then one is the trade deficit. What is wrong with that claim in your view?
Yes, you have that right. The president has no inherent constitutional authority to impose tariffs. Tariffs are taxes paid by American citizens. Only Congress can do that, but Congress can delegate power to the president under certain limited circumstances. And the administration claims that Congress did that in a statute called the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. We call it IEPA from the acronym, which was passed in 1977. Now, the problem with that is that IEPA does not mention tariffs or taxes or of any sort. It's about economic sanctions on foreign nations. It's not about taxation of Americans. And since that act was passed in 1977, no president until the current administration has ever claimed that it gives the president power to impose tariffs.
Is there a world where maybe you want to get more into the history of president's use of tariffs here, but is there a world where the Supreme Court could say, okay with regard to tariffs with one country, but not with another? I guess if you're making a separation of powers argument that it's up to Congress, maybe that's not the case, but I was just curious because I could see the different reasons, like fentanyl versus a trade deficit kind of being maybe weighed differently by the justices.
Well, that is not an alternative in this particular case because IEPA simply provides in our view, provides no power to the president with respect to tariffs at all, and so that argument applies to every country in the world. Now, some of President Trump's recent tariffs have been under different statutes than that. In particular, several of the tariffs have been under Section 232 of the Trade Act of 1962, which has to do with national security issues. And it is not impossible, I don't know that it's likely, but it is certainly not impossible that a court might hold that some tariffs against some countries implicate national security, but not others.
Okay, interesting. Are there certain justices that I don't know if they have any sort of history with, some were on the DC circuit themselves. Is there any sort of history with tariff precedent here with any of the justices that my listeners or I should be well aware of heading into November 5th arguments?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so this is pretty unprecedented, as it seems most of these Trump cases tend to be. Am I right?
Yeah, some more so than others. Now, the case, there have been cases about IEEPA that have come up before, but the leading case there came up at the very beginning of the Reagan administration, and none of the current justices were on the court at that time.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. My only other question for you is, I guess, since people ask about cases that challenge, certain agenda items of the president or executive orders he's made, I always get about a push on when we would get a decision. And I understand most of the big cases, like the one we're talking about now, would come towards in a normal term, like June, right? The end of the term. But because this does involve some of the moves the president has made, do you think we could get it sooner than the end of the term? Is there any sort of prediction on how that would work? I guess people have asked, with some of the moves President Trump has made, do the justices act faster?
So nobody knows. We're all just speculating. But yes, I think it's quite possible that the court would act significantly faster than that. And that's because this case has been on a fast track from the beginning. But this is not one of those cases on the so-called shadow docket where there's an emergency, stay of a preliminary injunction. There's an actual final judgment in this case. The Court of International Trade handled it quite quickly. The Federal Circuit ordered briefing on a highly expedited basis and went en banc. That means all of the justices or all the judges on the Federal Circuit, not just a panel, decided it, and they decided it quite quickly. The government then moved for Supreme Court review extremely quickly and have asked the court to expedite the whole matter. And the challengers, too, including my clients, we want a fast answer as well. And the reason for that is that having these tariffs that are so, from the president's point of view, so important, from our point of view, so disruptive to the economy, just under legal cloud, doesn't help anybody. It really is something that needs to be resolved.
Yeah, I guess when we talk about operating under legal cloud, with the challengers here, they were successful, so it wouldn't necessarily impact their business or businesses, correct, unless the Supreme Court were to rule in favor of the administration. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
Okay, explain to us how.
Although the challengers have won in every case, the courts have stayed the enforcement of their decisions, and so my clients are still paying the tariffs, the disruption to the
okay.
on. It's until the Supreme Court decides this, the world is being heavily affected by the tariffs.
I think that's
and the president is able to. He announces new ones all the time and changes the ones that he's announced in the past.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was interesting that it would have been status, even in regards, I guess not necessarily since we talked about nationwide injunctions and what the court did there, but with regards to at least your clients. I guess, what type of injuries, like since they've experienced this financially, have they witnessed from the tariffs?
So you're talking about my clients. These are 5 small businesses. Now, the most immediate is that they've actually been paying tariffs, and so they are entitled under the statute to sue for a refund of any improperly administered tax. But the effects are actually much more far-reaching than that because the unpredictability makes it very difficult for them to enter into contracts. So take, for example, the wine importer. They have relationships with vineyards in other parts of the world that have, that are in some cases generations old, and now they don't know whether they'll be able to import wine. They don't know what price that's going to be. They can't enter into contracts with any degree of confidence as to whether the rules of the game are going to be changed in the middle. So this is, and the other businesses have similar problems because, the tariffs are very large and they affect key inputs into manufacturing and other processes. So it drives up their cost of business. And one of the clients is, very likely, close to bankruptcy as a result of this.
That's
These
terrible.
tariffs are literally putting companies out of business.
Yeah, that's terrible. I'm going to be in the courtroom for this. I am wondering if the president will be too. It could be interesting. I covered a lot of these Trump cases and he has not been, so this could be a first time for everything situation. But I appreciate your time. Anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
Well, there are 1,000 questions, but you know what you need to know.
Yeah, it's one of those topics that I think for lay people, it can be hard to follow, not just what the Supreme Court does, but also the federal statutes and the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Little hard to explain to non-lawyers, but I'm trying to give them the big kind of 30,000 foot picture.
Thank you for your clear questions.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Court Watch. If you have not subscribed yet to this podcast, please do so, and also feel free to email me interesting questions or topics you want explored about the legal reporting world. I'll do my best to answer them during each episode. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Listen to my podcast, Court Watch, at WashingtonTimes.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.